Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Foundation. Rob Gonzalez had built his empire from nothing. At 45, he owned 3 construction companies across Texas, a luxury car dealership, and enough real estate to make most men comfortable for life. But Rob wasn't most men. He was methodical, calculating, and possessed a memory that forgot nothing and forgave even less. His father, Manuel Gonzalez, had been a ruthless businessman who taught Rob one fundamental rule. Trust is a luxury only fools can afford. Everyone will betray you given the right price. Rob had learned this lesson well, applying it to every relationship except one, his family. Rachel Gonzalez, his wife of 20 years, had been different, or so he believed. She was a real estate agent when they met, ambitious and beautiful, with honey blonde hair and green eyes that could convince anyone to sign a contract. She pursued him relentlessly, and Rob, still young and idealistic, had fallen for her charm. Their daughter Nicole was 17 now, a senior at St. Catherine's Preparatory School. She had inherited Rob's determination and Rachel's persuasive abilities, but unlike her mother, Nicole genuinely loved her father. She worked part-time at a local cafe, saving every penny for months to buy Rob something special for Father's Day. The Gonzalez family lived in a sprawling mansion in the hills outside Austin, complete with a 6-car garage, infinity pool, and enough security cameras to monitor a small town. Rob had installed them all himself. He trusted no one else with his family's safety. On this particular Thursday evening, Rob sat in his home office reviewing contracts when Nicole burst through the door, her dark eyes sparkling with excitement. "Dad, I need to show you something," she said, pulling out her phone. "I've been saving for 6 months, and I finally have enough." She showed him a screenshot from a luxury watch retailer. A Patek Philippe Nautilus, $3,000. Rob's expression softened, a rare occurrence that only Nicole could provoke. "Sweetheart, that's too much money. You don't need to. I want it, Dad. You work so hard for us, and you never buy anything for yourself. Mom's always getting new jewelry and trips, but you give and give." Nicole's voice carried a maturity beyond her years. "Besides, I already put down a deposit. I'm picking it up tomorrow after school for Father's Day." Rob felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest, pride mixed with an emotion he rarely allowed himself to feel. "Love. Nicole, thank you. That means more to me than you know." After Nicole left, Rob returned to his paperwork, but his mind wandered. Perhaps his father had been wrong. Perhaps some people could be trusted completely. He was wrong. Chapter 2. The Betrayal. Friday afternoon arrived with the oppressive heat typical of Texas summers. Rob was in the middle of a conference call with investors when his phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Changed my mind. Taking the money for my vacation with James. The watch can wait." Rob stared at the message, reading it 3 times before the words fully registered. The investors' voices faded into background noise as a cold fury settled in his chest. The same feeling he'd experienced as a child watching his father's business partners try to cheat him. James. Lance Barrett. Rob knew exactly who that was. Lance Barrett was Rachel's fitness trainer, a 32-year-old pretty boy with bleached teeth and muscles that looked better than they performed. Rob had tolerated the training sessions, even paid for them, because Rachel claimed she needed to stay in shape for her real estate career. But vacation? With her trainer? Rob ended the conference call without explanation and immediately called Nicole. She answered on the first ring. "Dad, I'm at the jewelry store right now. The watch is gorgeous. You're going to—" "Nicole, has your mother contacted you today?" "Yeah, about an hour ago. She said she needed the money for something more important." "I don't understand, Dad. I've been saving for 6 months. She knows how important this is to me." Rob's grip tightened on the phone. "Where are you exactly?" "Still at Harper's Jewelers on 5th Street. Mr. Harper said he'd hold the watch until 5 o'clock, but after that—" Nicole's voice trailed off, thick with disappointment. "Stay there. I'm coming." Rob hung up and opened his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. Within minutes, he'd accessed Rachel's credit card statements, phone records, and social media accounts. The picture that emerged was clearer than he'd expected. Rachel and Lance had been planning this trip for weeks. Cabo San Lucas, a 5-star resort, premium suite. The total cost? Exactly $3,000, Nicole's gift money. But the vacation was just the surface. Text messages revealed an affair that had been going on for 8 months. Photos showed intimate dinners, weekend getaways when Rachel claimed to be at real estate conferences, and enough evidence to bury her in any divorce proceeding. Rob's father had been right after all. He drove to the jewelry store in his black Mercedes AMG, his mind already formulating plans. When he arrived, Nicole was sitting outside on a bench, her head in her hands. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I wanted to give you something special, and now." "Nicole." Rob's voice was calm, controlled. "Look at me." She raised her tear-stained face. "Your mother made a choice today, a choice that reveals who she really is." "But you?" Rob's hand gently touched her shoulder. "You showed me who you are. The intent matters more than the outcome." "But the watch will be on my wrist tomorrow." Rob pulled out his platinum credit card. "We're buying it right now. But first, I need you to do something for me." Nicole wiped her eyes. "Anything. I need you to act like nothing happened. Can you do that? Pretend you're okay with your mother's decision, at least until Sunday." Nicole studied her father's face. She'd inherited his intelligence, and she could see something dangerous brewing behind his dark eyes. "Dad, what are you planning?" "Justice," Rob replied simply. "Your mother thinks she can steal from you, betray our family, and face no consequences. She's about to learn otherwise." They walked into Harper's Jewelers together. Rob bought the watch and handed it to Nicole. "Happy Father's Day," he said, from the only family member who truly understands loyalty. That evening, Rob sat in his office making phone calls. The first was to Garrett Williamson, his head of security and a former military contractor. The second was to Frank Waters, a private investigator who specialized in surveillance. The third was to his lawyer, Theodore Farrell, who had helped Rob navigate every major business deal for the past decade. "Theo, I need you to prepare divorce papers. Adultery, theft from a minor, and anything else you can think of. But don't file them yet." "Rob, what's going on?" "My wife is about to discover that betraying a Gonzalez comes with a price she never imagined." Chapter 3. The calm before. Saturday morning dawned clear and hot. Rachel was in the kitchen making coffee when Rob entered, freshly showered and dressed for his morning run. He observed her carefully, the way she avoided eye contact, the nervous energy in her movements, the guilt she tried to hide behind casual conversation. "Good morning, honey," Rachel said, her voice artificially bright. "Sleep well." "Like a rock." Rob poured himself coffee, his tone neutral. "What are your plans today?" "Oh, just some errands. Maybe lunch with the girls." Rachel's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her phone. "Actually, I might need to go out of town for a few days. There's a real estate conference in Dallas." Rob nodded thoughtfully. "Sounds important. When do you leave?" "Tomorrow morning, early." Rachel's relief was visible. "I'll probably be gone until Wednesday." "I'll miss you," Rob said, and meant it in a way Rachel couldn't possibly understand. He would miss having a target for his anger so close at hand. After Rachel left for her errands, which Rob knew was a final planning session with Lance, Rob spent the morning implementing the first phase of his plan. He called his daughter into his office. "Nicole, I need to tell you something, and it's going to hurt." Rob showed her printouts of the text messages between Rachel and Lance. "Your mother is having an affair." Nicole's face went through a series of emotions: shock, disbelief, hurt, and finally, anger. How long? 8 months. And the vacation money was always intended for her lover. Your gift was just convenient timing. Rob's voice was gentle but firm. "Nicole, I want you to understand something. Your mother's betrayal isn't your fault, and it doesn't reflect on you. But it does reveal something important about character." Nicole was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steel. "What do you need me to do?" Rob smiled. Not the warm smile he reserved for his daughter, but the cold expression his business competitors had learned to fear. "Tomorrow morning, your mother leaves for her vacation. I want you to text her around noon, asking if she's having a good time at her conference. Act normal, like you believe her story." "Why?" "Because your mother's going to spend the next few days believing she's gotten away with betraying our family. She's going to relax, let her guard down, enjoy herself with her lover. And when she's at her happiest, when she feels most secure. Rob didn't finish the sentence, but Nicole understood. She'd seen that look in her father's eyes before, usually right before a business rival found themselves destroyed and bankrupted. That evening, the family had dinner together, a farewell meal, though only Rob knew it was truly goodbye. Rachel chatted nervously about her upcoming conference, while Lance sent her encouraging texts that made her phone buzz every few minutes. Nicole played her part perfectly, asking innocent questions about Dallas and real estate trends. Rob contributed just enough to the conversation to seem engaged while internally cataloging every lie, every deception, every moment of betrayal. After dinner, Rachel went upstairs to pack. Rob followed her, standing in the doorway of their bedroom as she carefully folded lingerie and summer dresses, clothes clearly intended for seduction, not business meetings. "Rachel," he said softly. She turned, and for a moment, Rob saw fear flicker in her green eyes. "Yes, have a wonderful trip." The fear faded, replaced by relief and guilt. "Thank you, honey. I love you." "I know you do," Rob replied. "In your own way." After Rachel fell asleep, Rob returned to his office and made more calls. Garrett had confirmed that Lance Barrett would be picking Rachel up at 6 a.m. Frank had already planted tracking devices in both their vehicles and was monitoring their phones. Theodore had prepared not just divorce papers, but a comprehensive legal strategy that would leave Rachel with nothing. But Rob's plans extended far beyond legal proceedings. He opened his laptop and began typing detailed instructions to his network of contacts. Men and women who owed him favors, who feared him, or who simply respected his power. Construction workers, real estate agents, private security firms, journalists, social media influencers, and city officials. By dawn, Rob had assembled an army of people who would help him orchestrate Rachel and Lance's destruction. Not through illegal activities or corporate fraud, but through a carefully orchestrated campaign that would systematically dismantle every aspect of their lives. As he watched Rachel's suitcase disappear into Lance Barrett's BMW at 6 a.m. sharp, Rob felt the familiar calm that came before battle. His father had taught him that betrayal was inevitable, but he'd failed to teach the second part of the lesson, that betrayal must always be punished. Rob Gonzalez was about to provide that education. Chapter 4. The Hunt Begins. By the time Rachel and Lance reached their first stop in San Antonio, Rob had already set the first phase of his plan in motion. Frank Waters called at 9 a.m. with a status report. "They stopped at the Hyatt for breakfast," Frank reported. "Very cozy. Lots of public displays of affection. Lance paid with his credit card, which, by the way, is already maxed out. Your wife seems to be financing this entire operation." Rob sat in his office, watching security footage of his property on multiple monitors. What else? Lance Barrett is deeper in debt than we initially thought. 3 credit cards maxed, behind on his truck payments, and he owes his gym landlord 4 months' rent. This vacation is being paid for entirely by your wife's personal account. Perfect. What about their accommodations in Cabo? Premium suite at the Grand Solmar Resort. 5 nights, all meals included, spa treatments. Total cost is actually closer to $4,000. Looks like Lance convinced her to upgrade using her own credit card. Rob made notes on a legal pad. "Frank, I want you to stay close, but not too close. Document everything, every meal, every drink, every intimate moment. I want a complete record of how they spend Nicole's money." "Already on it. I got a contact at the resort who'll provide photos and video surveillance. Completely legal since it's all taken in public areas." After Frank hung up, Rob's next call was to Bernard Hester, a man who specialized in reputation management, though not in the way most people understood the term. Bernard could destroy reputations as efficiently as he could build them. "Bernie, I need you to start gathering intelligence on Lance Barrett. Employment history, character references, client complaints, anything you can find. Don't take action yet, just compile everything." "How deep do you want me to dig?" "Deep enough to find out why a 32-year-old fitness trainer can afford luxury vacations on a salary that barely covers rent." Bernie chuckled. You think he's got other income sources? I think Lance Barrett is exactly the kind of man who would seduce married women for financial gain. I want to know how many other wives he's been training. Rob's third call was to Chuck Hayes, a city building inspector who owed Rob several favors. Chuck, I need you to pay a visit to Barrett's Fitness on Maple Street. Full inspection, electrical, plumbing, fire safety, accessibility compliance, the works. When do you want this done? Wednesday morning. While he's out of town. Rob, if I find violations. You'll find violations, Chuck. Lance Barrett strikes me as the kind of man who cuts corners wherever possible. The rest of Monday was spent laying groundwork. Rob personally visited 3 of his construction sites, ensuring that his workers understood the importance of quality work and customer satisfaction. He wanted to be seen conducting normal business while his wife was betraying their family in Mexico. At lunch, Nicole texted Rachel as planned. Hey, Mom, how's the conference? Hope you're learning lots. Rachel's response came an hour later. Great sessions today. Very educational. Love you. The timestamp showed Rachel was at a beachside bar in Cabo, a frozen margarita in her hand and Lance's arm around her waist. That evening, Rob called a family meeting with just Nicole. They sat in his office, the Patek Philippe watch prominent on his wrist. How are you handling this? Rob asked. Nicole was quiet for a moment. I keep thinking about all the times she lied to us. All the business dinners and client meetings that were probably dates with him. It makes me sick. Good. That anger will serve you well in what's coming. Rob opened a folder on his desk. Nicole, I want you to understand something about your mother. This isn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This is who she is. He showed her financial records. Your mother has been systematically stealing from our joint accounts for months. Small amounts, but consistent. She's been building a separate nest egg, probably planning to leave for a while. Nicole's face hardened. She was going to abandon us. She was going to try, but she made a fatal error in judgment. Rob's smile was cold. She assumed I was the same trusting fool she married 20 years ago. What happens when she comes back? She doesn't get to come back, Nicole. Not to this house, not to this family, not to the life she's trying to steal from us. Rob's voice was calm, but Nicole could see the fury burning behind his eyes. Your mother chose her side when she stole your gift money. Now she gets to live with the consequences. Tuesday brought the first wave of Rob's counterattack. Bernie called with his initial findings on Lance Barrett. You were right about the other women, Bernie reported. I found 4 other married clients who've been paying for premium training packages that include overnight sessions and weekend retreats. All wealthy, all married, all conveniently discovering fitness needs right before their husband's business trips. How much is he extracting from them? Anywhere from $500 to $2,000 per month, depending on their financial situation. Your wife seems to be his biggest score yet. Rob felt a familiar satisfaction. His instincts had been correct. Bernie, I want you to contact the other husbands. Anonymously. Send them evidence of their wives' activities. All of them. All of them. By Thursday morning. Wednesday morning brought Chuck Hayes's building inspection results. As expected, Barrett's Fitness failed on multiple counts. Outdated electrical systems, insufficient fire exits, and violations of Americans with Disabilities Act requirements. The gym's been red-tagged, Chuck reported. Immediate closure until all violations are corrected. I estimate at least $20,000 in required repairs. Perfect timing, Rob said. Lance Barrett is about to discover that his business no longer exists. Frank called that afternoon with surveillance updates from Cabo. They're living it up pretty thoroughly. 5-star dining every night, couples massages, sunset sailing. Your wife charged another $1,500 in spa treatments this morning. How are they getting along? Lance is playing the perfect boyfriend, but I'm catching some interesting audio through the listening devices. He's been making calls to someone named Erica every night after your wife falls asleep. Very intimate conversations. Rob's research revealed that Erica Frost was Lance's actual girlfriend, a 24-year-old cocktail waitress who believed Lance was using rich clients to fund their future together. The web of deception was even more complex than Rob had imagined. Frank, I want you to arrange for Erica to discover exactly where Lance is and who he's with. Make it look accidental. How accidental? Social media posts from the resort's official accounts. Someone as photogenic as Lance and Rachel will definitely end up in the background of promotional photos. That evening, Rob received the call he'd been expecting. Nicole's phone rang at exactly 7 p.m., Rachel calling for their nightly check-in. "Hi, Mom. How's Dallas?" Nicole's performance was flawless. "Wonderful, sweetheart. The conference has been very enlightening." Rachel's voice carried the relaxed tone of someone who believed they'd successfully deceived their family. "Are you learning lots about real estate?" "More than I ever expected." Rachel laughed, probably looking at Lance across their resort suite. "I'll tell you all about it when I get home." "I can't wait," Nicole said, and Rob heard the knife edge in his daughter's voice that Rachel completely missed. After the call ended, Rob made his final preparations for Thursday, the day Rachel and Lance would discover that their vacation was about to become a nightmare. Chapter 5. The Trap Springs. Thursday morning in Cabo, San Lucas dawned perfect and cloudless. Rachel woke in Lance's arms, feeling more alive than she had in years. The premium suite overlooked the crystal blue waters of the Sea of Cortez, and for the first time in months, she felt free from the suffocating weight of her marriage to Rob. She didn't know that 1,500 miles away, her husband was systematically destroying her life. The first blow landed at 8:30 a.m., when Lance's phone exploded with notifications. His girlfriend Erica had discovered his vacation through a resort's Instagram post that showed him and Rachel sharing a passionate kiss at the infinity pool. "What the hell is this?" Lance stared at his phone as angry texts poured in from Erica. The final message was a photo of his apartment building with the caption, "Your stuff is on the sidewalk. Don't come back." Rachel, fresh from the shower and wrapped in a luxury bathrobe, noticed Lance's distress. "What's wrong, baby?" It's nothing. Just a drama back home." Lance forced a smile, but Rachel could see the panic in his eyes. At 9 a.m., Lance received another call, this one from his business partner and gym landlord. "Lance, where the hell are you? The city shut us down yesterday. Full closure, red tagged. They're saying we need 20 grand in repairs before we can reopen." Lance's face went white. "That's impossible. We just had an inspection 6 months ago." "Well, we failed this one spectacularly. Electrical, fire safety, ADA compliance, everything. I've got 4 months of your back rent sitting on my desk, and now no income from the gym. You better get back here and figure this out, or I'm finding a new tenant." Rachel watched Lance pace the balcony, his paradise vacation rapidly turning into a crisis management session. She felt a flicker of unease, but dismissed it. These things happen in business. At 10:15 a.m., the third bomb dropped. Lance's phone rang with calls from 4 different numbers, the husbands of his other clients. Each conversation was brief and carried the same theme: "Stay away from my wife, or else." By 11 a.m., Lance Barrett realized his entire business model had been exposed and destroyed in a single morning. But he still didn't understand that he was facing Rob Gonzalez. Back in Austin, Rob was orchestrating the second phase of his assault. He called Gustavo Bowers, a journalist who specialized in exposing Austin's social elite. "Gustavo, I have a story for you about a fitness trainer who's been seducing wealthy married women for financial gain. Complete with photos, financial records, and testimony from multiple victims." "How complete are we talking?" "Complete enough to destroy him socially and professionally." The story writes itself. Predatory trainer targets vulnerable wives, steals from families, operates unlicensed business. "I'm sending you everything right now. When do you want this published?" "Tomorrow morning." Front page of the lifestyle section. Rob's next call was to Denise Pugh, a social media influencer with 500,000 followers who specialized in exposing cheaters and scammers. "Denise, I have content that will break the internet." Within hours, the machine was in motion. Gustavo's article was being fact-checked and prepared for publication. Denise was creating a viral video expose. Bernie was anonymously tipping off lifestyle bloggers, gossip websites, and local TV stations. But Rob's masterpiece was still to come. That evening, while Rachel and Lance were having dinner at the resort's most expensive restaurant, Frank Waters received his final instructions. "Frank, it's time for the coup de grace. I want you to arrange for hotel security to confiscate Lance's credit cards. On what grounds? Suspected fraud. A concerned citizen noticed suspicious spending patterns and reported potential identity theft. Rob's voice was calm. Make sure it happens publicly, in front of other guests. And then Rachel Gonzalez discovers exactly how much Lance Barrett was willing to steal from her family for this vacation. At 9:30 p.m. Cabo time, Lance Barrett's world completely collapsed. Hotel security approached their table just as he was ordering another bottle of champagne with Rachel's credit card. "Mr. Barrett, we need to speak with you privately about your payment methods." The conversation that followed was conducted in full view of the restaurant's other patrons. Lance's credit cards were confiscated pending fraud investigation. His wallet was searched. His explanations became increasingly desperate and inconsistent. Rachel sat frozen as she realized that Lance had no money of his own, that their entire vacation was being financed by her accounts, and that the man she'd fallen in love with was essentially a sophisticated con artist. But the final revelation came when hotel security showed them the fraud report that had triggered the investigation, a detailed complaint filed by a concerned family member who noticed unusual spending patterns on Rachel Gonzalez's accounts. Rachel's blood turned to ice as she read the report. The language was precise, legal, and unmistakably familiar. The complaint included detailed financial records, copies of text messages, and a complete timeline of Lance's relationship with multiple married women. "Rob," she whispered. That night, Rachel tried calling her husband 17 times. Every call went straight to voicemail. She tried Nicole, but her daughter's phone was turned off. Lance, meanwhile, was discovering that his problems extended far beyond a vacation gone wrong. His business was destroyed, his apartment lease terminated, his girlfriend gone, and his reputation about to be annihilated in the morning news cycle. As Rachel and Lance sat in their premium suite, which they could no longer afford and couldn't leave because their return flight wasn't until Saturday, they finally understood the scope of what they were facing. Rob Gonzalez hadn't just discovered their affair. He had systematically engineered their complete destruction while they were celebrating their betrayal of his family. The hunt was over. Now came the reckoning. Chapter 6. The Reckoning Unfolds. Friday morning brought a media firestorm that exceeded even Rob's expectations. Gustavo Bowers' article in the Austin Chronicle hit the newsstands with the headline, "Fitness Trainer's Web of Deceit: How Lance Barrett Seduced Austin's Elite Wives." The story detailed his systematic targeting of wealthy married women, complete with photos from the Cabo vacation showing him with Rachel. But it was Denise Pugh's social media expose that turned Lance Barrett into Austin's most hated man. Her video, titled "Predatory Trainer Steals from Families for Luxury Vacations," went viral within hours. By noon, it had been shared over 50,000 times and picked up by 3 local TV stations. The video included surveillance footage from Barrett's fitness showing Lance with various married clients in compromising positions, financial records proving his debt situation, and audio recordings of him bragging about his stupid rich housewives to other trainers. In Cabo, Rachel and Lance were trapped in a nightmare. The hotel management, now aware of their situation through the fraud investigation, had frozen their suite access pending payment resolution. Lance's humiliation was complete when resort security escorted him through the lobby in front of other guests. Rachel called Rob's office from the hotel business center, her hand shaking as Theodore Farrell answered instead of her husband. "Theo, where's Rob? I need to talk to him." "Mrs. Gonzalez, I'm Mr. Gonzalez's attorney. Your husband is currently unavailable, but I've been instructed to inform you that divorce proceedings have been initiated. You'll receive formal papers upon your return to Austin." "Divorce?" "Theo, this is all a misunderstanding. I can explain. Mrs. Gonzalez, the evidence of your extramarital affair is comprehensive and documented. Additionally, you've been charged with theft from a minor, specifically taking your daughter's savings without permission for personal use." Rachel's world tilted. "Theft from a minor? That's ridiculous. Nicole is my daughter. Nicole is 17 years old, and the money was her personal savings taken by you for an extramarital vacation. In Texas, that constitutes theft from a minor, punishable by up to 2 years in prison." The line went dead. Lance, meanwhile, was discovering that his legal troubles extended beyond financial fraud. Bernie Hester had arranged for 3 of his former clients to file sexual harassment lawsuits, claiming they were coerced into intimate relationships through financial pressure and emotional manipulation. By Friday evening, Lance Barrett was facing potential criminal charges, civil lawsuits, and complete social ostracism. His gym was permanently closed, his business license revoked, and his reputation destroyed beyond repair. But Rob's plan was far from complete. That night, as Rachel and Lance sat in the airport hotel trying to figure out how to pay for their early return flight, Nicole made her first public statement about her mother's betrayal. She posted a single photo on her social media accounts, the Patek Philippe watch on her father's wrist, with the caption, "When I saved for 6 months to buy my dad a Father's Day gift, my mother stole the money for her vacation with her boyfriend. This is what real character looks like. Dad bought the watch anyway and taught me that family loyalty means everything. Some people are worth the sacrifice. Others aren't." The post was shared within their social circle and beyond, garnering thousands of supportive comments. Austin's elite social network, which had always admired Rob's success and respected his family, rallied around Nicole and condemned Rachel's actions. The social isolation was immediate and complete. Rachel's real estate career, built on relationships with Austin's wealthy families, evaporated overnight. Her clients canceled listings, her colleagues distanced themselves, and her broker called to terminate her association with the firm. Saturday morning, Rachel and Lance's return flight was a study in humiliation. They sat in the last row of economy class, the only seats they could afford, while other passengers whispered and pointed after recognizing them from the viral video. Lance was arrested at Austin Bergstrom International Airport on charges of operating an unlicensed business and fraud related to his gym's health department violations. The timing wasn't coincidental. Rob had arranged for the arrest to occur in the most public possible venue. Rachel took a taxi to what had been her home for 20 years. When she arrived, she found the locks changed and her belongings neatly packed in boxes on the front porch. A legal notice taped to the door informed her that the house was no longer her residence and that trespassing would result in immediate arrest. She called Nicole's phone and was shocked when her daughter actually answered. "Nicole, baby, please. Let me explain." "Explain what, Mom?" "How you stole my money. How you lied to us for months. How you chose your trainer over your family." Nicole's voice was cold, controlled, a perfect mirror of her father's tone when he was truly angry. "It's not that simple. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. Dad, show me everything. Every text message, every lie, every betrayal. You didn't just cheat on him, Mom. You cheated on me too." "Nicole, I'm still your mother." "No, you're not. You stopped being my mother the moment you decided Lance Barrett was more important than your family. Dad never gives up on the people he loves, but he also never forgives the people who betray him. You made your choice." The line went dead. Rachel sat in her car outside the house where she'd raised her daughter, watching through the windows as Rob and Nicole had dinner together. They looked happy, peaceful even, as if her absence had lifted a weight from their shoulders. She tried calling Rob one final time. This time he answered. "Rachel, Rob, please. We need to talk. I can fix this." "There's nothing to fix. You show me who you really are." And I responded accordingly. His voice carried no anger, no emotion at all, just the cold finality that had terrified his business competitors for years. "The house, the money, the social destruction. This is insane. I made a mistake, but..." "You didn't make a mistake, Rachel. You made a choice. You chose to steal from our daughter, betray our marriage, and humiliate our family. Now you get to live with the consequences." "Rob, please. I have nowhere to go, no job, no..." "You have Lance. Isn't that what you wanted? Lance is in jail. Then perhaps you should have chosen more carefully." Rob's voice carried a hint of dark amusement. "Goodbye, Rachel. Don't contact Nicole or me again." As Rachel sat in her car, homeless and friendless in the city where she'd once been part of the elite social circle, she finally understood the man she'd married and betrayed. Rob Gonzalez didn't just win. He annihilated his enemies so completely that they never recovered. And she had just learned that in his mind, she was no longer his wife. She was his enemy. Chapter 7. The final moves. 2 weeks after Rachel's return from Cabo, the destruction of her life was so complete that even Rob's business associates began to whisper that perhaps he'd gone too far. But Rob Gonzalez had never been a man who did anything halfway, and betrayal, especially from family, demanded absolute consequences. Lance Barrett's life had become a cautionary tale. The sexual harassment lawsuits had frozen his assets, the criminal charges prevented him from finding employment, and a social media campaign had made him recognizable enough that he couldn't work anywhere in Austin. He'd moved into a studio apartment in the worst part of town, surviving on welfare and the occasional charity of former gym members who didn't know the full story. Rachel's situation was marginally better, but only because she'd managed to find work as a part-time receptionist at a low-end motel on the outskirts of town. Her real estate license had been suspended pending investigation into her business practices, and her former lifestyle had become a memory. But Rob wasn't finished. On a Thursday evening, he called Nicole into his office for what would be their final conversation about her mother. "Nicole, I want you to understand something important," Rob said, his voice carrying the weight of hard-earned wisdom. "Your mother is going to try to contact you again. When she does, she'll appeal to your emotions, your sense of family, your natural compassion." Nicole, now 18 and preparing for college, had inherited her father's steel backbone. "She could try. I won't listen." "Good, but I need you to understand why this is so important." Rob opened a folder on his desk. "Your mother didn't just betray me, Nicole. She showed you that family loyalty means nothing to her. If she could steal from you once, she would do it again." "I know, Dad. I'm not changing my mind." Rob smiled, the genuine expression he reserved only for his daughter. "I'm proud of you, but there's something else. Your mother's situation is about to become much worse." "Worse how?" "Lance Barrett is about to discover that his legal troubles are just beginning. And when he realizes how thoroughly I've destroyed his life, he's going to look for someone to blame." Rob's prediction proved accurate. On Friday night, Lance Barrett showed up at Rachel's motel room, drunk and desperate. The conversation that followed was captured by security cameras that Rob had arranged to be installed in the motel's common areas. Lance blamed Rachel for everything: the media exposure, the lawsuits, the criminal charges, his complete social ostracism. In his alcohol-fueled rage, he accused her of being a rich bitch who destroyed my life for fun. Rachel's response revealed the full depth of her self-delusion. "I gave up everything for you. My husband, my daughter, my home, everything. You gave up nothing." Lance screamed. "You were bored with your rich husband and wanted to play with a pretty trainer. Well, congratulations. You played yourself right into poverty." The argument escalated into a physical confrontation that ended with Lance being arrested for domestic violence and Rachel being hospitalized with minor injuries. The incident made the local news, adding another layer of humiliation to her already destroyed reputation. But it also served Rob's final purpose. The next morning, Rob visited Rachel in the hospital. She looked up from her bed, one eye blackened and her arm in a sling, and saw her former husband standing in the doorway like an avenging angel. "Rob." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Rachel." He stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. "I thought you should know that Nicole and I watched the security footage from last night." Rachel's remaining hope died in her eyes. "Nicole saw that. She saw you defending the man who humiliated our family, choosing him over the daughter you abandoned." Rob's voice was calm, conversational. "She also saw him hit you." "Rob, please." Nicole wanted to press charges against Lance for assault. "I told her it wasn't necessary." Rob smiled, and Rachel finally understood the difference between his business smile and the expression of a predator. "Lance Barrett will face consequences for touching a member of my family, regardless of your current relationship status." "What are you going to do to him?" "Nothing illegal, nothing traceable. But Lance Barrett will discover that there are fates worse than prison." Rob's eyes held the same cold calculation that had built his empire. He'll spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, wondering when his past will catch up to him. Rachel stared at her former husband, finally seeing him clearly for the first time in 20 years. "You're not the man I married." "Yes, I am. You just never bothered to pay attention." Rob turned toward the door, then paused. "Rachel, Nicole asked me to give you a message." "What?" She said to tell you that she hopes you're happy with your choice, because those are the only consequences you'll ever face from our family. We're done with you." Rob left the hospital and drove to his office, where he made two final phone calls. The first was to Manuel Moses, a man who specialized in making problems disappear permanently, not through violence, but through relocation services for people who needed to start over somewhere far away. "Manuel, I have a job for you. Lance Barrett needs to understand that Austin is no longer a safe place for him to live." "How permanent are we talking?" "Permanent enough that he never contacts my family again." The second call was to Garrett Williamson. "Garrett, I want you to arrange a meeting with Rachel's motel manager. I'm going to buy that property. You want to evict her? I want to give her 6 months free rent and a paid bus ticket to whatever city she chooses. After that, she's on her own." Garrett was quiet for a moment. "That's surprisingly generous." "I'm not a monster, Garrett. I'm a father who protected his family from betrayal. Rachel made her choice, and she's faced the consequences. But I won't have Nicole wondering if I was unnecessarily cruel to her mother." "And after the 6 months?" "After 6 months, Rachel Gonzalez will be someone else's problem in some other city. As long as she stays away from Austin and never contacts Nicole again, I have no interest in her existence." That evening, Rob and Nicole had dinner together in their home, just the two of them, as it had been for the past month. Nicole was leaving for college in the fall, but the bond between them had only grown stronger through the crisis. "Dad, can I ask you something?" Nicole said as they finished their meal. "Anything. Do you ever regret how far you went with Mom and Lance?" Rob considered the question carefully. "Nicole, your mother didn't just betray me. She betrayed you, and she betrayed the concept of family itself. When someone shows you who they really are, you have to respond accordingly. But she's still my mother. Biologically, yes. But being a parent is about more than genetics. It's about loyalty, sacrifice, and putting your child's well-being before your own desires. Your mother failed that test." Rob's voice softened. "You say for 6 months to buy me a gift because you love our family. She stole that money to fund her affair. That tells you everything you need to know about character." Nicole nodded slowly. "I understand, and I agree with what you did. I just wanted to make sure you don't carry any guilt about it." Rob smiled at his daughter, the only person in the world who truly knew him and loved him anyway. "No guilt, sweetheart. Only certainty that I protected what matters most." 3 days later, Lance Barrett disappeared from Austin. Manuel Moses had convinced him that certain individuals were looking for him, and that his best chance of survival was to start over in a different state under a different name. Rachel took the bus ticket to Phoenix, carrying only a small suitcase and the knowledge that her former life was permanently over. And Rob Gonzalez sat in his office, the Patek Philippe watch glinting on his wrist, knowing that he had taught his daughter the most important lesson of all. Loyalty must be rewarded, and betrayal must be punished, regardless of family bonds. The price of betrayal had been paid in full. Chapter 8. The Inheritance. 6 months after Rachel's departure, Nicole Gonzalez was thriving at the University of Texas, majoring in business with a minor in psychology. She called her father every Sunday evening, their conversations ranging from academic achievements to investment strategies. Rob had begun teaching her the family business, recognizing that she possessed not only his intelligence, but his instinct for reading people's true intentions. On one particular Sunday in December, Nicole brought up a subject that had been weighing on her mind. "Dad, I've been thinking about what happened with Mom, and I realize I learned something important from watching you handle the situation." "What's that?" "That forgiveness and trust are two different things. You can forgive someone for hurting you, but that doesn't mean you have to trust them again or allow them back into your life." Rob felt a surge of pride. At 18, Nicole understood concepts that had taken him decades to learn. Exactly. Your mother's actions revealed her character. Once someone shows you they're willing to betray family for personal gain, they'll do it again if given the opportunity. "Have you heard anything about her?" "Nothing directly. Theodore tells me she's working at a restaurant in Phoenix, trying to rebuild her life." Lance Barrett, on the other hand, seems to have vanished completely. Rob didn't mention that Manuel Moses sent him quarterly reports confirming that Lance was working construction in Oregon under an assumed name, still looking over his shoulder and avoiding social media. Some lessons needed to be permanent. The conversation was interrupted by Rob's business phone. Theodore Farrell was calling with news that would test everything Rob had taught his daughter about loyalty and betrayal. "Rob, we have a problem. Rachel has hired a lawyer in Phoenix. She's claiming that the divorce proceedings were fraudulent and that she was coerced into signing papers under duress. What's her legal standing? Weak, but not impossible. She's arguing that she was emotionally traumatized and not of sound mind when she agreed to the settlement. Her new lawyer is also claiming that some of the evidence against her was obtained illegally." Rob's expression hardened. "Theodore, be very clear with me. Is there any chance she could successfully challenge the divorce or claim any portion of my assets?" "Small chance, but it exists. Texas is a community property state, and if she can prove coercion or fraud in the proceedings, she might be entitled to a portion of the marital assets." After hanging up, Rob sat in his office considering his options. He could fight Rachel's legal challenge through conventional means, spending months in court and risking public exposure of his more aggressive tactics. Or he could end this permanently. He chose option 3. He would test Nicole's loyalty one final time. That evening, Rob called his daughter back. "Nicole, I need to tell you something, and then I need you to make a choice." "What's wrong?" "Your mother is trying to overturn our divorce. She's hired a lawyer and is claiming that I coerced her into signing the papers. If she succeeds, she could potentially claim half of everything I've built, including your inheritance." Nicole was quiet for a long moment. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to give you the choice. I can fight this legally, which might take years and cost millions. I can make the problem disappear permanently, which would ensure your future is secure. Or I can negotiate with her, give her enough money to make the lawsuit go away. What do you think I should choose?" Rob smiled at his daughter's directness. "I think you should choose based on what you've learned about character and consequences. Your mother had everything: a loving family, financial security, social status. She threw it all away for a man who hid her in a motel room. Now she wants to come back and take half of what we've built together." "She already made her choice," Nicole said quietly. "She chose Lance over us. She chose her affair over her family. She chose to steal from me rather than respect my gift to you. And people who make those choices don't get to come back when their consequences become uncomfortable." Nicole's voice carried the same steel backbone that Rob had possessed at her age. "Handle it however you think is best, Dad. But don't let her take anything from our family again." Rob felt a complex mixture of pride and concern. His daughter had inherited his strength, but he wondered if she truly understood what she was asking him to do. "Nicole, when I say handle it, I need you to understand that there are different levels of permanence. Are you asking me to make this go away temporarily or permanently? I'm asking you to protect our family the same way you always have, whatever that takes." The next morning, Rob made a single phone call to a number he hadn't used in over a decade. When the voice answered, Rob simply said, "I need to discuss a permanent solution to a recurring problem." "How permanent?" "Permanent enough that the problem never resurfaces, but subtle enough that no one asks questions." "I understand. It'll take 2 weeks to arrange." Rob hung up and immediately called Theodore. "Theo, I want you to prepare a counteroffer for Rachel's lawyer. We'll give her $100,000 and a signed agreement that she never contacts Nicole or me again. If she accepts, the offer stands. If she refuses, she gets nothing. And if she refuses, then the problem resolves itself through other means." Rachel's lawyer called back within 3 hours. She would accept the settlement. But Rob had already set the permanent solution in motion, and some operations couldn't be recalled once initiated. He made one final call to cancel the arrangement, but learned that certain types of problems, once scheduled for resolution, developed their own momentum. 2 weeks later, Rachel Gonzalez died in a car accident in Phoenix. The police report indicated brake failure on a mountain road, a tragic but not uncommon occurrence in older vehicles. Nicole flew home for the funeral, which was attended by exactly 3 people: Nicole, Rob, and Theodore Farrell. No other family members appeared, no friends from Rachel's former life, no colleagues from her Phoenix restaurant job. As they stood at the graveside, Nicole asked her father a single question: Did you know this would happen? Rob looked at his daughter, intelligent, strong, and now carrying the weight of understanding what family loyalty sometimes required. Nicole, there are some questions that are better left unasked, and some answers that are better left unsaid. Exactly. Nicole nodded slowly. She was her father's daughter, and she understood that some prices were paid in full, even when the payment method remained unspoken. As they drove away from the cemetery, Rob reflected on the lessons he'd learned from his father and passed on to his daughter. Trust was a luxury only fools could afford. Betrayal must always be punished, and family loyalty, once broken, could never be repaired. The Gonzalez family was now complete at exactly 2 members, both of whom understood perfectly that some bonds were stronger than blood, and some betrayals were unforgivable. Chapter 9. Legacy. 5 years later, Nicole Gonzalez sat in her father's office, now their office, reviewing quarterly reports from their expanded business empire. At 23, she had inherited not only Rob's intelligence and business acumen, but his absolute intolerance for betrayal and his uncompromising approach to family loyalty. The watch Rob had bought with her gift money still sat prominently on his wrist, a daily reminder of the difference between family and blood relations. Nicole wore a matching piece, a Cartier watch Rob had given her for her college graduation, engraved with the words, "Loyalty rewards loyalty." Their business had grown substantially since Rachel's death. Nicole's natural talent for reading people and her inherited ruthlessness had made her invaluable in negotiations and partnership decisions. Together, they had built an empire that extended far beyond construction and real estate. On this particular evening, they were reviewing a potential acquisition when Nicole's assistant buzzed in with an unexpected call. "Ms. Gonzalez, there's a gentleman on line 3 who says he's your cousin. His name is Frank Gonzalez." Rob and Nicole exchanged glances. Rob's family had been estranged for decades, ever since his father's business partners had tried to cheat the family out of their holdings. Rob had handled that situation with characteristic thoroughness, and the Gonzalez name had since commanded both respect and fear in certain circles. Nicole answered the call on speaker. "This is Nicole Gonzalez." "Nicole, this is Frank Gonzalez, your father's cousin. I know we've never met, but I'm calling because I have some information that might interest your family." Rob leaned forward. "Frank, this is Rob. What kind of information?" "Information about Rachel's death." The room went completely silent. After 5 years, Rachel's death had become simply another closed chapter in their family history. But Frank's tone suggested that chapter might not be as closed as they believed. "What about Rachel's death?" Rob's voice carried the dangerous calm that his business associates had learned to fear. "I think we should meet in person. There are things that need to be discussed face-to-face." They arranged to meet at a private club where Rob maintained membership, neutral territory where conversations could be held without electronic surveillance. Frank Gonzalez turned out to be a man in his 50s with the same dark eyes and calculating expression that ran in the family. "Rob, Nicole, thank you for meeting me. What I'm about to tell you will probably come as a shock." Frank opened a briefcase and removed several documents. Rachel didn't die in an accident. She was murdered. Nicole's expression didn't change, but Rob felt a chill of recognition. "How do you know this?" "Because I'm the one who killed her." Rob stared at his cousin, processing this revelation. "Why?" "Because someone paid me to. Someone who wanted Rachel dead, but couldn't afford to be connected to her death." Frank's smile was cold and familiar. "Someone who hired me through a series of intermediaries so that the contract could never be traced back to them." Nicole spoke for the first time. "And you're telling us this because?" "Because the person who hired me died last month. Natural causes, heart attack. And before he died, he confessed to his lawyer about ordering Rachel's death. The lawyer is now trying to decide what to do with that information." Rob felt the familiar sensation of pieces clicking into place. "What do you want, Frank?" "I want to know if you knew your wife was going to be killed when you set certain events in motion 5 years ago." The question hung in the air like smoke. Rob looked at his daughter, seeing his own understanding reflected in her eyes. Nicole had inherited his intelligence, and she could see the same connections he was seeing. "Frank," Rob said carefully, I think you should tell us exactly what you know. I know that Rachel's accident was arranged by a man named Gregory Chun, a business associate of yours who lost a major contract when your divorce became public. Chun blamed Rachel for damaging your reputation and costing him money. Rob remembered Chun, a property developer who had severed their partnership after the media circus surrounding Rachel's affair. The man had been bitter about losing access to Rob's resources and connections. Chun hired me to kill Rachel through 3 intermediaries, so the contract could never be traced back to him. But here's the interesting part. Chun told his lawyer that he was convinced you wanted Rachel dead, but couldn't arrange it yourself due to the legal scrutiny. Nicole leaned forward. Are you suggesting my father somehow manipulated this Chun person into ordering the hit? Frank's smile widened. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just reporting what Chun believed before he died. He was convinced that Rob had somehow maneuvered him into taking action that Rob couldn't take himself. Rob felt a familiar satisfaction, the same feeling he'd experienced when business competitors destroyed themselves trying to outmaneuver him. And what does Chin's lawyer intend to do with this information? That depends on what he believes happened. If he thinks you orchestrated Rachel's death, he'll go to the police. If he thinks Chun acted independently out of misplaced loyalty, then the matter stays buried with Chun, Nicole finished. Exactly. Rob considered his options. The situation was complex, but not unmanageable. Frank, what's your assessment of this lawyer's character? Pragmatic, concerned primarily with protecting his own interests. He doesn't want to be involved in a murder investigation unless he has to be. Then I suggest you tell him the truth. That Gregory Chun was a bitter man who blamed an innocent woman for his business failures and took action that no one could have predicted or prevented. Frank nodded slowly. That's certainly one way to interpret the situation. It's the only way to interpret the situation, Nicole said, her voice carrying the same authority as her father's. Because anything else would be speculation about matters that can't be proven. After Frank left, Rob and Nicole sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Nicole spoke. Dad, did you know Gregory Chun would react that way when the divorce became public? Rob looked at his daughter, brilliant, strong, and now carrying the weight of understanding what family protection sometimes required. Nicole, there are some questions that are better left unasked, she finished. I understand, but I need to know if I'm going to inherit more than just your business empire. Rob studied his daughter's face, seeing the same calculation that had made him successful and feared. Nicole, what did you learn from watching how I handled your mother's betrayal? That loyalty must be rewarded and betrayal must be punished. That family comes first, always. That some people will destroy themselves if you give them enough rope. And that sometimes the most effective action is the action you never have to take directly. Nicole's smile was razor sharp. Gregory Chun destroyed himself trying to curry favor with you. Rachel died because of her own choices, not because of anything you did to her. Rob felt the complex mixture of pride and concern that had become familiar over the past 5 years. And if the lawyer decides to pursue this further, then Gregory Chin's estate will face a wrongful death lawsuit that destroys his family's finances. His lawyer will face disbarment proceedings for failing to maintain client confidentiality. And Frank will discover that the Gonzalez family protects its own. Rob looked at the Patek Philippe watch on his wrist, a symbol of family loyalty purchased with money that his wife had tried to steal from their daughter. Nicole wore her matching Cartier, a symbol of the bond they'd forged through betrayal and consequence. Nicole, you've learned the most important lesson about family and business. Sometimes the most powerful action is the one you never have to take directly, because other people will take that action for you if you understand their motivations well enough. Exactly. 3 weeks later, Gregory Chin's lawyer concluded that his client had acted independently out of misplaced loyalty and business frustration. The matter was closed without investigation. Frank Gonzalez disappeared back into whatever shadows he inhabited, and the Gonzalez family continued building their empire on the foundation that Rob's father had taught him decades earlier. Trust no one completely, but understand everyone's price. Rob and Nicole never discussed Rachel's death again. But every Father's Day, Nicole gave her father a small gift, Never expensive, always meaningful, and they both remembered the lesson that had forged their unbreakable bond. Family loyalty was everything. Betrayal was unforgivable, and some prices were paid in full, even when the payment method remained forever unspoken. The Gonzalez legacy was complete, a father and daughter who understood that in a world full of betrayal, only family could be trusted, and only if that family proved itself worthy of trust every single day. Rob Gonzalez had built an empire, protected his daughter, and eliminated every threat to their family's future. Nicole had inherited not just his wealth, but his understanding that some bonds were stronger than blood, and some lessons were worth any price. The watch on Rob's wrist continued to tick, marking time for a family that had learned the hardest truth of all. Love without loyalty was worthless, but loyalty without consequences was powerless. Their story was complete, their enemies vanquished, their bond unbreakable. The price of betrayal had been paid in full. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.